David with EV World News. We'll talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And it's a Wednesday, and I'm with our resident engineer, Mike Herzog. How's it going, Mike?
Back. It's Wednesday. Exciting news in the world of EVs. I'm hoping, it's day to day, week to week, and we're back.
It's amazing how much kind of changes. I know when I first started doing this with Bill, I was always concerned about how much real new information there really is. And it's like, it's mind-blowing how much new information there is on a daily basis. And some of that just gets nutty when you see how much is going on.
I think if we take a step back and like the broader picture of the industry, like that's how crazy it is right now. It's not this niche. Like I have such a vision of what an EV is in my mind, and it's just a car that I take and I drive and do everything. But when we really apply that vehicle to it and use cases, and we've got the stock ticker going along the bottom of how big business and world changing and kind of world interesting it is right now.
Look at Lucid, $22. It was down to like a few bucks a while back. I mean, that's just amazing what a recovery Lucid has made. Yeah, and I look at some of these different ones that are going through. The general consensus here is most of the market's down today, but it's still interesting just kind of to see, because so much of this, the tickers that we run are either electric vehicles, AI related, or nuclear energy. And for instance, like NuScale, nuclear companies down 3.6%. Nano's down 8%. Seems catastrophic, except when you figure like in the past week they were up 20%.
Up and down.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to pick entry points. Oklo is the one I really like, and it's we don't have it on our ticker though. But I met a guy at a conference who had invested significantly in Oklo pre-IPO at $1, and it's at 140 now. And he's like, man, I really wish I'd bought more.
Yeah, I would say so at that.
Yeah, point. I mean, if he put $1 million in, that's $140 million.
Yeah, I'd say,
he manages money for pension funds. Okay, so whoever those retirees are,
they're gonna buy that.
Really made them a killing.
Yeah, you're gonna buy the extra retirement home in Arizona or Florida.
Yeah, your pension's really well funded at the moment because of what this guy did in the nuclear space. But he went into SMR when it was pre-IPO. He went into, I don't know if he did Nano, but I know he did Oklo, Nano. We have another one, ASPI. It's ASP Isotopes out of South Africa. They're on the New York Stock Exchange. They've gone up like 20% in the past week. They recycle nuclear fuel, which is funny because we've talked about this a little bit, because you can't recycle nuclear fuel in the United States, but that's changing. I see there's some stuff going on. Everything seems to be going on at Oak Ridge, Tennessee. The Manhattan Project, it's the legacy of the Manhattan Project, right? There's like 3 or 4 big investment projects, jobs in the nuclear space, all related to fuel going in there. Mm-hmm. And I think one of those is recycling. I know they're going to make triso fuel there. That is
process it through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Triso is just simply a version of uranium that's coated in ceramic, so it can't melt down. But anyways, let's talk about this Lucid deal. So and we mentioned the Lucid stock there. So Lucid has always had the Lucid Air, this expensive, very noticeable car when you see one.
Just as a side note, I saw 2 of them in the parking lot the other day. I saw a silver one that's been there forever, but I saw a kind of purpley maroon one in the parking lot where I worked the other day. There's actually 2 of them in the same parking lot.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And those Lucid Airs range from about 80,000 on the low end to 250,000 at the top end. I don't know if I've ever seen one of the top end ones. I've seen one for sale online before on a used site, and it was like car number 14 or something like that, because the $250,000 one's like some limited edition that does 0 to 60 in 2 seconds and
Yeah.
1,200 horsepower kind of thing. But anyways, they've made an SUV, which is what they probably should have done in the first place.
Where things have gone, yeah.
And anyways, the Lucid Gravity has so many orders, it's extending the $7,500 EV tax credit. Well, if you don't know, the EV tax credit for both new and used cars expires on Tuesday next week is the last day. But if you have an order in place, you can still get the credit as long as you have the car ordered and the paperwork all done. Okay. Now, what's the question here is they say they're sold out on what they could take for pre-orders, but they're not really saying what that number is. It might be 10,000. I'm not sure exactly.
You're talking Lucid.
I'm talking Lucid.
Okay.
Yeah. So Lucid will continue offering the $7,500 federal EV tax credit for Gravity buyers until the end of the year. So they have so many, the electric SUV has so many orders, doesn't want buyers to lose out on the savings. Now, what I'm not 100% sure of is that they're saying that they're going to carry those somehow with the IRS, or they're just, I suspect a lot of it, they're just going to cover the $7,500 if somebody doesn't get it. Deliveries are well into the 3-digit range so far, which means they've delivered 100 cars. Okay. That's better than 3. Okay. That's better than it just being mock-ups, right?
Better than the one that was bespoke and handmade, effectively not came off the line. Yeah.
But in the second half of the year, Lucid expects the SUV to account for the majority of deliveries and production. I mean, they've historically on the car, they only sold like maybe 1,500, 2,000 cars a year. And they've lost massive money on every one they sold.
On every one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts because of how much it costs to get into manufacturing. Ooh, now, this is, sometimes the paint job is what wows me, but that's probably what wows me.
Is it one of the camouflaged?
No. Oh, okay. It's not that. But this is the Lucid Gravity Grand Touring in a color called Aurora Green. Now, it doesn't look that amazing, but it just sort of shimmers. It's got just a cool look to that color there on the vehicle. But the daily order rate for the electric SUV since they've started offering test drives has doubled. And they're just not really given the number on how many pre-orders they've actually had. Lucid views the German luxury brands, including Mercedes, BMW, and Audi, as its primary competitors. It does view Tesla as a competitor, but we see ourselves a little bit of a notch higher than Tesla. And it's more for the way they fit out the vehicle. It's not, saying that there's something necessarily better, although they do have more efficient electric motors. But you look here, here's the screen.
They set a bunch of the records, didn't they?
Yeah.
So about distance and mileage and all that.
Right. Their just basic efficiency is greater than 5 miles per kilowatt, whereas most of the Teslas get about 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah. And so it's significantly more efficient of a vehicle. Several luxury brands have pulled back on their electrification plans, but Lucid plans to remain a pure EV company and believes electrification is the future. Their vehicles currently start in the 70 to 80 range, but the company is working on launching its mid-size platform in late 26, which will bring the price of the Gravity down to around $50,000. Then it'll make it able to maybe compete a little bit with the Model Y, so they're hoping to be there. And they're also looking to make a mid-size sedan, possibly aimed at the Model 3. That's a big change in
change in who they were, right?
Yeah, from being the $100,000 EV luxury car maker to, Tesla's trying to make cheap cars. Let's see if we can compete.
Right, it's what you just said like 2 minutes ago of like, well, we view our main competitors as luxury German brands, not Tesla. And now you just change yourself into a competitor of Tesla. in that category.
Yeah, I don't know really what to say about that. And what's interesting that I see if you're coming into this space um, is comparing yourself in that price range um, of an EV when you've got something like Porsche in that space. Okay. And so, like, Porsche is in the process of making let's see, here's a picture of a Cayenne. They're
Mm-hmm.
releasing a all electric Cayenne for 2026, which, Cayenne's super popular car. It's really nice to drive. It's got really comfortable seats. To me, it's a really good one for electrification. It's always been a super fast
Yep.
SUV, and now it's going to be an even faster SUV. And but here is, for instance, well, this is if I can
Okay.
stop the damn video, a Porsche Macan with an ad in the middle of it. Um, but the Macan and the Cayenne don't look a lot different, other than the Macan's a little smaller. And I think in 27, it's only going to be offered in electric. And so it kind of makes sense. But Porsche's really heading into the,
Mm-hmm.
more electric
Yeah, they're moving.
lineup.
Have you seen
And
the new Cadillac all electric models? Boy, they are.
well,
I
I
think
mean,
they
I
are
see the
sharp.
Lyric around.
The
What
new
I
Lyric
haven't seen
Escalade,
is the Escalade.
the Escalade equivalent. My neighbor has one. Holy cow!
Hmm.
Is that a sharp looking vehicle? Yeah,
Oh, I bet.
it's oh, they're really nice looking. So kind of in this same vein of that luxury, unapologetically large SUV looks great. The Lyric looks really good, kind of this in the mid-size category. Like I think that's
But,
a really interesting space to watch right
but
now.
your neighbor has the electric Escalade.
Hmm.
Oh man, yeah,
And
those
it's
750 horsepower, 400 plus mile range. Yeah, I'm sure it's got. I don't know the battery says, but I'm sure it's that 200 kilowatt one that goes in the
I
Hummer.
don't know the exact specs on it,
Yeah,
but it's one of those.
it's got to be. But that's. I think those start at 150.
Oh, I believe it. It looks every bit of it. Just a really sharp looking vehicle. One of those, like, I'd call it one of those head turners. Like, ooh, what was that?
Yeah,
Just clean
I'm.
lines, like, looked awesome.
I was gonna say, and then it's super quiet.
Yeah.
Don't get hit by
Yeah,
the
sneaks up
silent
on you.
Escalade. Yeah. Um, but it's good to see some of these traditional car makers, getting in this space. I mean, I don't think it's any. This has always been one of the problems I've seen with initially with electric vehicles. I used to complain. It's like, well, they're not going to sell if you keep making them ugly. You know, and it's like I always thought. And no offense to Bill, I've never liked the look of the Chevy Bolt.
Mhm.
Okay, the Nissan Leaf, it's not turning heads. You know, um, you know, the e-tron, that's a different story, right?
Yeah,
It's an Audi. It
it
looks
looks.
good.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's the Q6 or one of them. I mean, it looks just like the other ones.
But
It's.
but look at, like, the BMW i3. I mean, it just
Why
how did
that was a
BMW do
question. That
that?
was a
It's
questionable one. That was a
Yeah,
questionable
a
one.
BMW makes such pretty automobiles, and then they make the i3, and it's like it was intentional. It's like, well, we're going to make an electric car. Let's make it
Well,
look.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
kind of at the start of everything though. It was almost like they got trapped into this ultimate practicality. Like, this is
mhm.
purely a practical car, and that's what an EV needs to be. And we don't need to invest in any of those other things because practicality sells itself. And now it's like it can be a car too. I mean, it doesn't just have to be a battery with four tires. Like,
Yeah.
make it a car.
Well, when the Tesla came out with the Model S, it was expensive, right? But it looked the part.
Mhm.
Okay, it looked comparable to as if it was a four-door Corvette or something similar. It looked really sporty. It looked, the part of an 80 to $100,000 car. Okay,
That was going to
they
go real fast. Yeah.
yeah, and they didn't try to make it look goofy. Okay, now you can argue that the Model Y and the Model X look like potatoes driving down the road. So they're a little odd looking, but I've gotten used to them.
Yeah.
You know, but and now there's starting to be more cars that kind of have a similar shape, but they were kind of the, you know, introducing the potato shaped automobile that you know, didn't necessarily look great. But you look at the Model Y, it may look goofy, but for being it was the best selling car in the world for 2 straight years. I mean, nobody cared, right?
Mm-hmm.
They only cared it was a Tesla and it was electric. But we got here from Nathan. If we have about 500 miles of range, good looks, take a back seat. Well, you know, when you're talking to Lucid, you do have 500 miles of range.
And
you know, you get that Lucid Air. The gravity doesn't, but the air does. You know, that is just insane range. But a lot of that is it's got a 100 kilowatt battery that gets 5 miles per kilowatt, or 5 per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And anyways, I get people taunt me for using those terms.
Using the wrong units.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm just saying it's interesting just to see the changes that have come on in the space. And now, though, but you look at Porsche. Porsche's got nice looking vehicles to start with. The Taycan or however you say the damn car's name, they brought that out with 200-mile range. And really, for a car that was running anywhere from $120,000 to $150,000, that probably wasn't a good bet. And now they're releasing the newer ones, and they have 300+ mile range. So they've fixed that. But those original ones, man, they depreciated like crazy. I think there was some real disappointment in that range because it didn't make it great for road trips. I was talking to my friend with the i3, and he was saying that he's having trouble with he can't fast charge now. And but he was talking about where he wants to travel to play some tennis tournaments. And you know, he's trying to map it out because he's only got that 80-mile range, and so he's got to keep every hour he's charging somewhere. And
that 80 miles could disappear in a hurry.
It's really funny. This guy, everything people say you can't do with EVs, well, he doesn't tow with his i3, but I mean, he goes places that people say you can't go in EVs and all this. And you know, it's the one thing. No matter where you go, you can always find an electric plug of some sort somewhere. That's right.
You know, and that's, you know, we're getting sidetracked in a hurry, but like, that's what we've talked about, always been the issue with hydrogen cars, you know, and kind of the natural gas space, like there's just not infrastructure for it. Whereas what you just said, electricity, there's always a plug somewhere. So it's always most of the infrastructure is already built out for you.
Yeah. You know, I'm really big on clean energy and all that. And I'm really sometimes embarrassed that, you know, Trump goes in front of the UN and calls green energy a scam and all that. But I'm dealing with somebody that I just met, and he's installing hydrogen, or he's selling hydrogen energy and fuel cell batteries into facilities. And he's using the heat from their gas turbines that are burning LNG or whatever they're burning. And he's using the excess heat and making hydrogen from it. Kind of like what we talked about with Generation 4 nuclear reactors.
Combined cycle, where it's like you're using the heat, you're using everything that's associated with it.
And he's like getting just stacked up. It's like data centers want to be able to show that 10% of their energy is coming from clean energy. And it's just, I was just kind of laughing. It's like, so you figured out a way, if you can get free energy, which from that heat that's not being used, then you have the opportunity to do that, right? Because hydrogen, you know, for cars, we talked about that so much. It's like you got to make it, then you got to transport it, and then sell it. And by the time you do all that, it's twice as expensive as diesel. And it's just hard to it's hard to push back bad economics on people.
Yeah, it's just not, the infrastructure is just not there yet. And I don't from everything I see or everything we talk about I don't see it being developed either.
Yeah, the only situations like we were talking before, like a remote community where
Yeah.
you're using the nuclear reactor to generate, use that extra heat to generate
Mhm.
green hydrogen, so you don't have to truck in diesel from 1,000 miles away or bring it in by boat. Kind of makes sense, you
Kind of.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. There
Yeah,
are
and
absolute use cases for that.
and
Yeah.
I hope that that economically makes sense because of not trucking in the diesel, and then your vehicle's then running on the clean energy. It's not just cleaning up the environment.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's economically viable too. And
Mhm.
the thing that I hate when I see the criticism of solar and wind and battery storage is that they act like it's not economically viable. Most of the problems, there's been 100 solar companies that have tried to do grid scale solar that have gone bankrupt in the United States. But you and I have talked about it. It was always because they couldn't get connected to the grid. So what happened was they put this in. They were promised they're going to get connected on a certain
Mhm.
date, and 2 years later they're still not connected, and they're paying for that stuff, and eventually they go
And you
bankrupt
just
because they
can't
never
do
have any
it. Like
revenue.
you're getting no revenue in return, and you have all the upfront expenses and overheads, but no revenue in return.
Yeah, so it was. I don't know. I guess they can't sue the grid or whatever for whatever happened there, but the grid never came through, and you know,
It's that's normally my day to day is grid analysis and looking at those things, and it is holy smokes. Is it in a place right now where if you would have asked me 10 or 15 years ago, like never, we would never be at this point. And it's not just the generation, but the large data centers being added and everything like that. And we used to be in a spot where, when you'd add one coal plant every 5 to 10 years, or a natural gas plant, and it's really easy to study. Like not easy. I mean, it's complicated grid dynamics engineering. There's just one of them. And it's a utility to say, yeah, we're going to build this. You make it work. And now it's a dozen solar farms, 15 wind farms, all of them, and like you tell us what works. Like we just want to plug in and get going. So it's just been this insane balancing act that everybody's still struggling with. I don't think anybody's quite figured it out yet.
yeah, but you get the solar plugged in, it works.
It works. Yeah.
People want to make the argument, well, what if the sun's not shining or whatever? It's like it doesn't matter. It's still generating electricity like it's supposed to,
Yeah.
and it's not a scam. But we've had so many weird things happen. And, I talk about the Cylindra, the green energy scam. It was a boondoggle for Harry Reid's son, and that goes
It doesn't,
bankrupt.
yeah,
And it's
just
just
gives
not a
it
good look.
bad face value.
Yeah. Cylindra really kind of set the green energy space back years, just like Chernobyl set the nuclear space
Yeah.
back, and so some of that, I still see all kinds of hit pieces on the nuclear space, but they're still writing as if they're in 1980.
Yeah. Where it's that
Or
same
1990.
technology, same.
Yeah, yeah, and we're still discussing the expression your grandfather's nuclear energy,
Yeah.
but the problem is that most of the nuclear reactors
Are
are
from
Gen
that
2.
era. They
Yeah,
truly are from that era. Yeah.
yeah, and that so many of them are actually at that 60-year lifespan. It's really staggering to think what would 60 years
And
be,
it's
1965.
most people's reference on a nuclear power plant's The Simpsons. And Homer's
Right.
sitting at that workstation from those episodes from the early '90s. Like it
Mhm.
still looks like that today. I mean, it's
Yeah, it
still
hasn't
it's
changed.
flashing lights and switches and levers, and things are starting to turn over and be automated. But you walk into a power plant control room that's been around, like it's wow, like I can still see like the cigarette smoke stained on some of the equipment from when
The
you first
software is written in COBOL or Fortran.
started. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, turns
some
out,
dead programming languages in theory, but there's
yeah,
no Windows on those computers.
nope.
You know,
It's you need to find somebody or get out the big paper copy manual book of how do you update this.
I still think that. So my first computer had 5.25-inch floppy disks, and then I thought that was really old until somebody told me about 8-inch floppy disks.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't know those.
yeah,
Yeah,
there was something bigger, at one time, and then I've met people who did the punch cards,
yeah,
and so you did the punch cards, you just slid them in, and it read them in the
yeah.
computer, and and made them operate. And it's like, man, that's seriously getting into some 0 and 1 binary there.
That is, yeah. Is there a punch there, or is there not a punch there?
Yeah. Anyways, I have this article, this company called X Charge. It's just the letter X Charge. North America is leasing DC fast chargers to small businesses. So they're leasing level 3 chargers, and they're about $800 a month. But that includes, I remember talking to people with like OPPD, our local power company. Then they're telling me that if you're putting in a fast charger and they're providing it, or you go out and you buy your level 3 DC fast charger plus the grid upgrade you got to pay for, you're about $150,000 per unit. Okay. And these guys are doing it for $800 a month. So I don't know how they're doing that. It's a lease, and up to 400 kilowatt units for an affordable monthly rate. Let me see. They can tap into the U.S. public DC fast charging market, which is expected to grow at a 14% compound annual rate through 2040 and generate $3.3 billion in annual market value without paying steep upfront costs. The idea is the business or whatever can pay that lease and then sell and keep all the profit from the electricity.
How would that work? I'm trying to So where's this X Charge? I wonder how they get their cut. Oh, I guess it's an $800 a month monthly fee.
Yeah, but I just don't see how they're making that work. So it's X Charge and a company called Ascentium Capital, and it's put this leasing program together.
And especially if it's a lease, they're covering all the O&M. I mean, or at least the maintenance, and upkeep.
The chargers integrate with existing infrastructure. Businesses don't need to worry about major grid upgrades or transformer installations. Hold on, that doesn't make any sense.
No. So there's a typical utility rate or tariff model. They'll have some type of reimbursable where you might have to pay up front, but then you make it back on the back end, or they'll credit your bill a certain amount every month because there's some level of inherent incentive of like, whoa, that's more power sales for us. So if we get more sales out of it, we're not going to make you pay the full cost of upgrade. But for those DC fast chargers, I don't know where things are at with tariffs and supply chain right now, but God, some of those, just the transformers themselves are $30,000, $50,000.
The only thing I can assume is that they'll only put these in a place where it doesn't need
where it doesn't need that. So that makes sense.
Because otherwise, this just doesn't make any sense.
Where they will help you figure out, like, is your business right for this? Do you have can your existing infrastructure handle this? Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know. That's something. Maybe I need to get somebody from X Charge to come on the show and explain this, because
I might be interesting. So where we're at, we got in Midwest, we got overbuilt with strip malls and with the giant box anchor stores that are empty now, or were turned into a place of worship or turned into a trampoline park. Seems that's all they get turned into, but you have to put in a lot of infrastructure for those up front. So maybe the idea is, if you have some of those in an office park or somewhere sitting idle, it's like, let's glom onto that and use that available capacity. Because otherwise, that's tricky.
So I have opportunity right now to sell some level 3 fast chargers that are 360 kilowatt output for under $20,000. And that's really getting cheap now.
That's a pretty good price.
It's another overstock deal that somebody got, but these are all brand new with warranty. The last ones I had had been made for Shell, and they were branded Shell on them, but it was removable stickers. It was all, but those ones were quite a bit more. Well, I don't know. They were probably more like $25,000, $30,000, but they didn't come with warranty. These ones do. So that's a little different, but it's interesting to see some of these opportunities. Yeah, I just reading that article about X Charge leaves me with more questions than what the article answers.
It is, and just for the audience too. I mean, we're not crapping on these ideas. Like we love to see innovation in the marketplace, but when you're around long enough, you can kind of see like how logistically how might that work? Like how might we put some of that stuff in there so you can kind of get a baseline on where these things might go. But just even us talking through it for 2 minutes there, it's like okay, maybe here's a specific use case that you can't just cover in a 2 or 3 paragraph article about what they're trying to do.
Well, it is kind of an odd. I don't know. It's an odd claim, but maybe I'll reach out to them because that's just. I actually friended the CEO of Gravity Chargers. They have the 800 kilowatt chargers in New York, and he's agreed to come on. We've just never set a time for him. Yeah. Okay, I got a shocking one for you. This comes from Yahoo Finance. European buyers prefer Chinese cars over American cars. Okay, now here's something for you, all you people who think that, the Chinese cars suck or whatever, and some of this. It's like, well, for people who aren't biased because they don't live in the United States and they don't live in China, Europe is now, and this poll's a little flaky, but this was a study from by a research firm called Escalent, found several trends that have changed in European car buyers' decision making. 47% of buyers will consider a vehicle from China. Only 44% will consider from the US. A year ago, it was only 31% from China and 51% from the US. Now, some of that is a lot of the Europeans think they're getting abused by the US issuing trade tariffs. Mm-hmm. And in reality, all we're doing is we're just matching what they were charging for our stuff to go in their countries. It's like the United States hasn't actually taken anything and made it more expensive. They just tried to balance the playing field, and it's like, well, the United States was just letting them all get a free ride.
And it's, I believe, 100%. I think there's a lot to that. And the perception that seeing is believing. You know what I mean? And it's one of those. If that's sentiment and that's a trajectory. It's positive sentiment for U.S. vehicles is going down, and positive sentiment for Chinese-made vehicles is going up. I think there's quite a bit to that there, regardless of what the cause is, because external circumstances absolutely play into that.
The U.S. was the only country where the brand, were the people who said they would buy American versus other countries. The U.S. was the only country that went down. Japan went up from 50% to 54%. South Korea went from 30 to 34, and China overall went from 12 to 19. That in cars, it was much bigger though for China. European buyers have widely held expectations that Chinese vehicles will be cheaper, even if they're objectively superior. And so there's certainly more value to the cars versus those of other brands. Let's see. But of course, Tesla has had an issue with sales in Europe as well. So, who knows? That's been one of the bigger ones over there. All right, let's talk about India. Coal demand in India projected to rise to 1.6 billion tons by 2030. That's a lot of coal.
Feels like a lot of tons.
1.6 billion. Yeah, so that's a ton of coal for every person in the country. Wait, the population is like 1.5 billion. Yeah, so that's a ton of coal.
More than a ton of coal.
Just slightly more than a ton of coal for every person who lives there. Yeah, so what that means, every person is burning about 6-7 pounds of coal a day.
Yeah,
that's not really crazy, to be honest.
No, and when you start breaking things down like that, it's one of them. I mean, that kind of, if it's your heating, it's your electric, it's clean water, those type of things just for personal use, plus all the infrastructure costs.
It sounds big, but we probably use more than that. You and I do.
Probably. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
Remember what we were talking about? How in the United States, because of how many things use energy in the United States, that if you divided it by the population, everybody uses about 100 kilowatts or
yeah,
100 a
it's
day or
well,
something.
and that's the well, when they put out like carbon targets and emissions targets, and there's a voice on the inside.
Yeah, yeah, he's using this coal over
Big
there.
show.
Yeah, and he still
That's
doesn't
why
have power
our
4 or 5 hours a day.
yeah, our Western footprints are so much higher than everybody else because of those. When everything comes down in, like, electricity is a big part of it, the grid's a big part of it, but
Mhm.
it's still, yeah, our emissions are very high per capita.
Yeah. So last year, coal production in India was only 1 billion tons. So they're going to 1.6 billion. Now,
Was that by 2030? What they're
yeah,
saying?
by
Okay.
2030 in 5 years. But I've also heard them say previously they're planning on increasing coal electrical generation by 50% in the next 5 years. And at the same time, um, they've installed 19. Let me see. We have installed 1,900 megawatts, so 1.9 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity, and are ambitiously targeting 15 gigawatts by 2030. Um, oh, that's a single
Yeah,
company. That's a single company.
that wasn't the nationwide.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say that doesn't sound, for the nation of India, that sounds light, but
Renewable capacity in the last 10 years in India has tripled.
Mhm.
They got all kinds of stuff. I've seen ideas for even harnessing the waves in the ocean for energy and things like that they're doing in India. They're trying all kinds
We've
of
got to
things
try
to
lots.
achieve net zero.
Boy, the other country in that general area that's just gangbusters on coal is Indonesia. Holy
Oh,
cow, are they adding? Because I mean, they're going to be one of the top populated nations in the next 25 years, and it's just one of those. That's how they're meeting their demand right now. Just
well,
that entire Southeast Asian region is just, it's an anomaly, compared to what we see in Europe and China and even some India. Like, the coal is just going up because of the population growth.
I've always commented on this. In a lot of these third world nations, some of the challenges, we've had electricity for 100 years, and we've always been at the forefront of transportation, of energy usage. It's one of the things that, while people don't really talk about it, energy is one of the things that's really made America an economic powerhouse.
Yeah,
And I mean, that because that's your day job.
that's me. Yeah.
But I'm just saying that it's not fair to tell these people in these other countries, like, oh, you can't burn coal. We did it for 100 years and we wrecked the environment, but you guys can't do that, And I think it's really, how do you go about doing that? It's like, oh, you guys can all just live in poverty. We'll make your government officials wealthy. We'll subsidize them if you don't
Yeah,
give electricity to your
go
population.
produce our disposable goods and do it over there and do it with coal. But my carbon footprint at home went down because we continue to go wind and solar for grid services, for grid
Yeah.
power.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. And a lot of those countries are trying to add,
Yeah.
clean energy stuff. Oh, I had an article the other day from somebody who was promoting nuclear that hates hydro. Like, what the hell? I don't know if I'd really meant. Now, there was that deal in Oregon where they
Yep,
had
where
those
they
dams.
took down the dams for river flow and all of that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hydro is a tough one to argue with because it's renewable and it's base load. Like, it runs. If the reservoir is full, it just runs 24/7 and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I mean, from your perspective, it's ideal, right?
It is. It
It's
checks both boxes by
it's
itself.
it's cheap. There's always things.
Once it gets built, there's like no maintenance. It just goes.
Yeah, and this guy would just like it wrecks, the downstream communities, the ecology, all these other things. It's like, well, you look at in Russia, there was some enormous lake or inland body of water. I mean, that there was fishing fleets on. Okay, it was
like
that big.
Baikal, one of those.
I don't. That
Yeah,
one's
the big one. It was
fine.
just another giant one.
Baikal's still huge, but it's so remote nobody can really do anything to it. But the thing was, they had dammed up parts of the rivers that flowed into this lake so that they could use the water for agriculture. But the lake basically turned into a desert.
Starts going, yeah.
Yeah, it basically vanished. And there's all these pictures of like boats sitting in sand dunes, because there was nothing you could do with the boats. The water was gone. And, and they talk about this big tragedy. It's like, yeah, but you fed people. I mean, nothing's free, right?
No, and the arguments for damming, like, yes, does it impact the ecology? Does it impact water flow? Does it hurt species? Does it hurt some community? Yes, it sucks. I wish it didn't. I wish those things didn't happen. It was just perfect around the board. But like what you're saying, it's you got to understand the trade-offs in what you're looking at. And if our goal right now, our main target is carbon reduction, then you gotta start reinvesting in some of those hydros.
Yeah. So this was kind of an interesting article I saw yesterday. I think it's called Commonwealth Energy or something like that in Virginia.
Yeah,
gave somebody $1 billion PPA or power purchase agreement to buy fusion energy from a fusion reactor. It's like, but fusion currently costs more money to generate a kilowatt than it actually can.
It's one of those, it's not a complete, so like you have to put extra capital in. It does not pay for itself. It's one. It's a loss. It's a loss.
Yeah. And eventually, enough smart people have done enough theorizing that if you get it done right, it will make money, and it will be the future of energy sometime. And it's always like 3 decades from now, right? And these guys are really hoping that they're going to be able to start buying this energy by mid 2030s or early 2030s. And it's like, they still haven't actually
made
it. They haven't figured out yet
at scale,
how to make it.
At scale. Yeah.
Yeah. And at some point they're going to get it figured out, and then it's going to be a major change in energy. Well, the original talk with nuclear was that it was going to be so cheap, there's going to be no need to meter electricity anymore because it's just going to be free. But they all forgot about transmission costs, right? And, even if fusion costs 1 cent a kilowatt, most of your cost for your energy at your house is still transmission. Yeah. So that might only actually be cutting your energy bill by 2 or 3 cents a kilowatt. It's not like if you're paying 20 cents a kilowatt, it's not going to take it down to like 2 cents. It's going to take down to like 17.
A rate or a tariff, you have your variable energy cost, like how much did you actually use, and then it's infrastructure, it's fixed cost. And so just a little background on that, most tariff structures are inverted, where they account for most of their gains through energy sales, even though most of their costs are fixed cost infrastructure. So that was one of the big arguments against solar and everything, and distributed solar, where, hey, we are actually out of balance of our actual costs and where these things are at. And if we lose this energy, we don't have enough to pay for our infrastructure anymore. So that's one of the big things out there. Our local power company did it a few years ago, where they inverted their rate structure, where it said most of our costs are fixed costs, just the infrastructure. So that's what people need to pay for on their bill. Less of it's going to be energy. And that's the variable cost. So solar people and everybody said, well, you're disincentivizing solar. You're doing everything. And that's what it costs. Like, these are our numbers. This is what it costs. We have to be reflective of that and make sure we get paid.
I'm sure people get tired of hearing me talk about how Quebec sells power for 4 cents to New York. And then New York sells the power to their citizens for 25 cents. And 2.5 cents is profit for the power company because they're regulated as a monopoly. They can't exceed that. And everything between 4 cents and 22.5 cents is the cost of what you're talking about. It's all that infrastructure, all the personnel who work for the power company, the loss and heat in the transmission and all of that. And that's a big number. I mean, you think about that. What is that? That's about 18 and a half cents. We only pay 12 cents retail for electricity in Nebraska. So obviously their cost to provide the infrastructure in New York is far higher than it is in Nebraska. And
we've got wide open spaces, which benefits us a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's just a different setup. When I explain that to people, sometimes they're a little confused by that information, right? Because they always think that everything, I have people all the time trying to tell me how nuclear energy is basically free. Well, we think that one of our technologies might be able to get the ongoing OPEX to be like 1.5 cents a kilowatt. That's going to get really cheap. Okay, that's really going to be cheap, but you still got to get it to the end user
where it needs to go.
Yeah, and that's of course it's one of the benefits of the small reactors. If you put them where the energy is going to be used, then you don't have transmission costs. You don't have all of that other overhead, right? And so there's something to be said for that. But still, it's just like the whole fusion thing. The fusion reactor probably not going to be in your backyard, so it's still going to have to be transmitted. And so there the theory is that fusion, how much cheaper are you going to get than 1.5 cents a kilowatt? I mean, it's not like the fusion is going to have a negative cost, so at some point, at best, let's say you're cutting it from 1.5 cent to 1 cent. And that's even ambitious. I mean, it's like, is that really the game changer? Knowing what you and I know about, cost of electricity, I don't think just average people understand that.
Yeah, it's a lot of overhead. It's a lot of overhead expense to connect points across hundreds of miles. I mean, you're running physical giant wires through the air for hundreds of miles, and then making sure they're effective and safe and maintained and all of that.
All right, we'll get to my final article for today, and we'll let everybody go. Researchers make breakthrough that could revolutionize solar panels. A more rigorous approach.
Is it a new chemistry? Is it a new type of silica? Gallium arsenide, new thing in there?
Well, it's something that they've introduced at the Renewable Energy Test Center called the hail resiliency curve. And so this is about solar panels getting destroyed by hail. Now, I hear people talk about this all the time. The funny thing is, I have solar panels, and I had a car in my driveway have the rear window smashed out, completely busted through by hail during a storm. My solar panels aren't scratched. Okay. It really, so, the windows in your house are all going to be gone. The siding's going to be gone. It really takes some big ass hail we don't know how big the hail was that went through his car window, but
broke a car window. I mean, I've been through golf balls,
and you figure this window was sloped like this. So it may have been falling at an angle, but still
it's not a straight
still
on
was glancing. It wasn't like a straight on hit, whereas my solar panels
closer
to a straight on hit. So I just thought this was kind of interesting, but the solar industry needs a more rigorous approach to hail testing. The hail resiliency curve test fills this knowledge gap by providing our customers the actionable data on solar panel hail resilience across the complete impact energy spectrum of real-world hailstorms. Standard panels tend to fail between 40 and 80 joules of impact energy. Now, I don't know how to convert that into softball size, golf ball size, what that represents. But the panels they're developing can withstand 120 joules or more, which sounds like a big change, which could save developers, insurers, and everyday homeowners thousands of dollars in replacement costs. Mike, you're in that space. Do you ever hear about solar farms taking just massive damage from?
I would say I hear much more about hurricanes. In the Caribbean and winds and designing for that. I'll be curious. So a community just northwest of ours has a decent sized solar farm, and Fremont. They got hit by baseball sized hail just this past week. Went right over where that is. So that I think that's going to be a test case. I kind of want to go ask the folks up there how that thing made out when everything was said and done.
Oh, please bring that up.
Yeah.
Next week. That would be really good to
just because it's one of those. I think that facility got hit with baseball size hail. Now next time I call him, it's like, yeah, don't drive by it. It's going to be in rough shape. But if it made it through okay, that'd be very curious.
Yeah, I'm just saying because I realize my personal experience is small, right? But still, I just don't see all that going on.
They do. A lot of the pictures that get circulated that are attributed to hail damage are actually hurricane damage, where they show a power plant or a solar farm just mangled and panels missing and cracked. A lot of those are actually from high winds from a hurricane that got things out of whack.
I wonder how high the winds have to be to mess up a solar farm. But I mean, the thing is, you see trees flying through the air in some of those situations. Hail is one thing. A tree impacting your solar panel
at
high speed at 150 miles per hour. It's I don't know. It's kind of probably similar to a small plane hitting your solar panel. Yeah. So it's hard to kind of judge where that might be. Anyways, folks, thanks for watching today. And Mike, thanks for coming on. And Bill and I are doing a show on Friday this week. It's like the first Friday I'm not out of town for something, or Bill's not out of town or whatever. So we will have the show on Friday this week. Otherwise, folks, thanks for watching and have a great day.